KHMD will unravel itself slowly. Beginning with his first speaker of the day, Gautam of 11 a.m. He describes himself as a technology evangelist, coin collector, cricket enthusiast, and Android hacker. He also just happens to be the founder of our community. To the point and extremely matter of fact, Gautam's talk today will involve KHMD, its relevance and function. Please welcome Gautam to the View Talk.
I think I'll leave the mic, I won't be able to speak so loud. Okay, it's good to see you all guys here. We've been waiting for such an opportunity to gather all of you in front of us and meet everyone and get to know each other. Okay, when I started KHMD a few months back along with Arjun Rao, we had one goal in mind: to advance the state of computer science learning in our school. Don't get me wrong, but our school does a really great job at teaching computer science. But what we felt was that those of us who wanted to go deeper and wanted to learn more, there was not enough for us in the syllabus. But soon we realized that whatever can be done inside the classes is already being done by the teachers. So whatever has to change outside the class only. And why is that so? Okay, let me tell you now. In classes 4 to 10, our school really stands out from the rest. So can you ever imagine writing a test based on mugging up raw facts and the history of computers? Did we ever go through that? No, because our school really makes it a point to teach us only what is practically useful. And for that, I thank you teachers. We should give them a round of applause for that. So what do we learn in classes 4 to 10? I think some of the most interesting things from what we learn are Scratch, Bbox, Greenfoot, QBasic, HTML, CorelDRAW, Photoshop, VBasic, C and Flash. So I think this really helps us to learn a lot of software packages and be all-rounded tech users or become tech savvy. Okay, anyway, but even amongst all this, what I found was that after talking to teachers, they told me that they could not go deeper into the topics I just mentioned because of one reason only, and that was that they had to cater to the majority of the students who did not like computer science as much as some of us here do. So we realized that whatever has to be done from outside the classes and not from the syllabus. Then what about classes 11 and 12? From what I have been able to observe for the past 1 year, I have found that classes here are restricted due to the syllabus and the time. And the teachers agree with me. So this is why I think again we start KHMD so that we can help students from classes 11 and 12 also to learn more outside. It was hard for me to believe that even students in class 11 and 12 who have taken computer science voluntarily feel that computer science is a dry subject and they they really don't see the real application of programming. They only see the trivial application. And that was for me really hard to believe because the only thing that attracted me towards programming was its practicality. Okay, now let's talk about something else, something more fun. Why did we name this event Infuse? I think way too many people have asked me this, but there was one person who asked me, what are we trying to infuse here? Don't laugh, that's a really good question actually. But back then I was lying and I said that I don't know what we're trying to infuse, but I'll answer that now. What we are trying to infuse in you today is the ability, the drive and the passion to learn more than what is being spoon-fed to you in school. Now, so I think now will be a good time to hear out Aniruddha Mysore, who has sent us a message. He could not be here with us today because he is an alumni now and he left school after 10th standard.
Hello everyone, it's great to be back with all of you today, although it is only virtually. For all those of you who do not know me, I am Aniruddha, Mysore. When I first heard about khmd Infuse, I was really excited, but as I live in Gujarat, participation wasn't really an option. However, Gautam has allowed me to send you all this short video message. First of all, I would like to thank Kumaran for organizing this lovely program, and I would like to thank Deepa ma'am for letting even ex-Kumaranites like me be a part of it. Normally, online communities do not last long once the initial enthusiasm of the founders fades away. Fortunately for us, this has never happened, and I hope it never will. The fact that we allow everyone to write on our community blog, from absolute beginners to the experts among us, keeps our community participation really high, and our content quality is ever increasing. It's been an incredible experience interacting with all the people on the khmd Google Plus group. More than the knowledge, for me it's the encouragement I get by seeing other students learn about technologies that in India we right now think are beyond the capabilities of students. I have really high hopes for this community. As long as we keep continuing to participate with this much enthusiasm, as long as we keep learning, as long as we keep doing what we believe in, I believe no platform will be too high for us to develop on. I would like to thank our founders, Gautam and Arjun, as well as our seniors like Jai Hitesh Bosamia and the rest of the team who have guided us along the way. Let the Kumaran hackers, makers and designers unite. Thank you.
I think that was a really good message. Thank you, Aniruddha. The khmd community really appreciates the time and effort you have put into it. I think he stayed up the whole night and made that video yesterday. So, thank you, Aniruddha. Okay, now I think the world has changed way too much for us to learn things the same way. The advent of platforms like edX, Coursera, Udacity, and most importantly YouTube has changed education forever. I mean, see, people can take engineering level courses sitting at home today, and believe me when I say that most of our students can finish at least the introductory courses if they can make time for it, or rather find time for it. Anyway, what this also means is that by the second semester of your engineering, just a second semester, you could have finished intermediate level courses from these platforms. And okay, I think one example is that Arjun Rao, our co-founder, has finished CS 253 by Stanford online, sitting at home. Anyway, so I think after this we should hear out our members Rupit and Adish for their Oculus Thrift demo.
Me and my team have put up a project in front of you. So, yeah, I'd like to give a brief introduction. The sudden rise of virtual reality changed the track of the world's future, and this change was brought about by one device which was brilliant and extraordinary, the Oculus Rift. The Oculus Rift is a VR headset made by Oculus after being taken over by the social media giant Facebook. Facebook believes that this device can change every aspect of our lives and also take connectivity to another level. With great promises comes great cost. Priced at around 23,000, it makes it one of the most expensive of its kind. But it's quite simple to experience its feel to a certain extent.
Okay, so here we've got the model. Now we've made it using cardboard and foam. And so basically we use these two materials for the Google Cardboard. And here is this lid to put your phone in. And now this is only the first part. The second part consists of LEDs and you need a laptop. So you put a film of floppy disk, of the floppy disk film, and you attach it to your webcam. So it only tracks the light of the LEDs and not the surrounding. And you get this software called Free Track, which is free to download. And basically it tracks all your movements. So, and these are the lenses. This is the most difficult part to make for the Oculus Thrift. We use 5 centimeter focal length lenses where a 4 centimeter one is recommended, but the diameter of this is like 5 centimeters, so it's fine.
Now the hard part was making this work. What we had to do was we decided to insert a phone here which would show what we are displaying on the computer. The thing is that we can't just display what we had to. We had to divide it into two parts. We have two eyes, right? So each one should show the same thing twice and it should make it into 3D mode. So for that we used the application called Creavite 3D, which split the screen into twice and displayed as 3D.
Yeah, so basically to give you the three-dimensional effect along with okay, so to give you the feel of you being there and you moving around as well as the screen moving around with you, we use the software called Free Track, as my friend told you. And for Free Track, you use 3 LEDs, and because of the dimensions between the LEDs, the computer determines your location of your head. So it basically tracks your head as you move it. And but there is a replacement for this, which is using the accelerometer of your phone, if that is allowed in your phone. But in our case, we're using Free Track. So this basically gives you that feel that you are right there. So when you move your face, it moves along with you. That's basically your face. And when you move your head, theoretically this would move in 3 dimensions, which is basically yaw, pitch and roll.
We can let all of you have an experience with the Oculus Rift that we made later if we have enough time. But anyway, my point here is that we're trying to make an environment where the mind of the most logical guy, the Android guy, the Flash guy, the 2 most brilliant hackers and makers I've seen, the artist and the jack of all trades all come together and build something truly great. That's what khmd is for, and that's what we're trying to do. And I think this was a really good example of how we made something really quickly because we had so many people working on it. I think along with this, I think I should also tell you how to use the community, how to use the G+ community. In short, don't be stupid. If you have any questions, ask. Tag people who you think can answer those questions. Then float around ideas to be worked on as a group. And if you want to display your projects, please display them with ample description and with enough documentation so that we know how you made it. I mean, we don't care about what it does. We care more about what you used to make it and how we can make it. I think I can show you one more video, which is something I haven't shown anyone till now. It's a secret of mine, but I didn't make this video, I just found it. Let's have a look at it. So KHMD is not just another community or group that you have joined on Google Plus or Facebook. It is your own community, and there are two reasons why it's very different from whatever is out there. The first reason is that you can actually interact with the people whom you meet on the Google Plus community on a day-to-day basis. And the second one is even more important. That's because any of you can have as much say running the community as anyone else has. That's because one day even I will leave school and then someone else will take responsibility. So right now I have hope spinned on 3 batches right now whom I have been able to interact with over the last 1 year. I respect all my seniors, but more so those whom I have been able to interact with in the last 1 year. And the current outgoing batch of 12th grade is truly brilliant. Looking at their interaction with the community, I can say that they are just waiting for their exams to get over and then start contributing. The other batch that I want to talk about is the 9th grade batch. It's the current 9th grade batch. I can see a lot of really bright people and really well-rounded guys. And there are many people who are also curious enough to get much better than they are right now. And the last batch that I want to talk about is the 7th grade batch, the current 7th grade batch. I think this batch really stands out because the exposure they are getting right now with B-Box, Greenfoot and things like that. I've been interacting with these 7th graders for the past few months, and even Samir, who has come with me in all these events, all these meetings, will agree that there's something special with this batch, with the 7th grade batch, because they have they are capable of becoming the best batch that has ever passed out of Kumarans. So I want you guys, all of you juniors, to think about taking this community forward. I think I would like to end my talk by saying one thing. You will always be humbled on your journey to knowledge and skill. Thank you.
That was a very inspiring talk, and I really loved the video they showed. Mrs. Sathya Prasad is currently working with Intel India and has been working with Intel for the past 18 years. He is a very experienced professional and has worked with various companies like Semi India and Cadence Design Systems. He works on developing new products and helps in developing servers, to be more specific. Today, his talk will be about the makers community and how technology that was non-existent 3 years ago is making a change in a big way today. Please welcome Mr. Sathya Prasad on stage with a big round of applause.
Thank you for a very kind introduction. A couple of things before we get started. A quick introduction for the kind of things that I do. So Gautam mentioned computers. Initially it doesn't feel right. A lot of algorithms, a lot of logic, a lot of theory. So when you start to actually build some of the stuff, when you get your hands dirty, build systems, you see how fun it can be. In the beginning it looks very flat. But trust me, after doing it for 20 years, there is a certain amount of joy that comes to you when you actually build new things, conceive things that didn't exist in the past. One of the things that we're working on now is something between, it's a server, but it's neither one of the boxes like this, which is probably a desktop, and then we have very high-end servers. There's something in between for web servers. So when you do Facebook, when you first log in, it's just a very little computational activity that is required. It just needs to put in your login, it needs to authenticate your password, and then the rest of the stuff happens. Photos, conversations, and all that. So there's great joy, and what I'm going to try and do today is to give my perspective in terms of joy of making, and of late in the last 2 years there's been a tremendous amount of activity that has happened. I'll show you some tools. I wish I could have actually brought some show and tell, but I'll work with Gautam to get some of those to KHMD and some others. I wish I could have brought it, but I thought Gautam did a wonderful job of outlining what the objectives of the community are, and the keyword there is community. And the video was really wonderful. Don't worry about what you start. It's about getting started. And you'll see that message come through as well. So I have very few slides. We'll keep it to more Q&A. Right? I want you guys asking questions. And there's, like I think Gautam already said, there's no such thing as a dumb question. I mean, you need to get started, and it doesn't matter how you get started. So that's the whole purpose, and I have about maybe 15 minutes left, and then we can do a Q&A. So before we go, this is a signboard that is there on 101 in San Jose. This says Invent, right? And that place is the birthplace of a lot of different things. Silicon Valley, San Jose. It's not uncommon to find billboards like this. Some of the places maybe there will be advertisements for milk or a chocolate bar or a lottery ticket. But this is San Jose City, right? Where just culturally and intrinsically it's about invention, innovation. Let's just get started, and then if you build up the slide, I wanted to talk briefly about this before I get into the next slide. I will just hit a space bar and build up the next slide. Yeah, okay. That's good. So what I'm showing you here is, I'll tell you a little bit about this. This is a very low-cost version of a braille printer. A typical braille printer, this is for blind, they want to read. Typically what happens is somebody like you or me will be a volunteer. And I've done this kind of with graduate students. So you type up immediately with their class notes, and then you feed it into a braille printer, and then you give it to them. And that's what they study. The problem is it costs about $2,000 to $3,000. It's fairly expensive. So $2,000 to $3,000 would be about 1.2 to 1.2 lakhs. Pretty expensive. So what this guy did, Shubham Banerjee, he started playing with Lego Mindstorm. How many of you have heard Lego Mindstorm? Okay, very good. So he took a regular Mindstorm and then built an inexpensive braille printer. And he did that for about 2 years. And Shubham is all of 14 years old. So they're roughly in the 7th standard or 8th. That would be his age. So you're the perfect age group, like as Gautam was mentioned. You're beginning to learn some of the programming skills. You're beginning to be curious. And there are many ways you can actually give expression to them. So that was the first version, prototype. And then he built something using an Intel Galileo, and I'll talk about what that is. And started his own company at the age of 30, Brago Labs. Both his father and mother work at Intel, but that's a different. And this is actually use of a prototype actually printing something that is blind journey. So age is no barrier. It can be 6, 7, 5th, 4th, it doesn't matter. You need one thing and navigate to start. Curiosity. Right? Ask questions. His first question started with saying, why does the braille printer have to be so expensive? Why is it $2,500? Why is it not $200? That was the starting point. And it led to building something like this. This is still expensive. Lego Mindstorm is still about $500 or about $30,000 to $40,000. So it's not cheap. And then came along this, and we talked about some of these things. So the maker part of it, I was hoping that the other gentleman would probably talk about. So khmd, right? So Kumaran, hackers, this is in the group context, right? Ability to build new software for any particular given purpose. Then you have the makers, which is to actually build hardware. And then you have design. You need to be able to put all of this together to make something functional, make something creative, make something useful. Okay, so that's just an introduction. Now, when I think of makers, I think the following come to my mind. There's a you can actually go to the web. If you type up a bunch of names, then you put it in something. It's called Word. If you want to do something like this, I'm sure you guys will use this. So the first thing that comes to my mind is passion. You're not here today just to listen to a PowerPoint or spend an hour and a half here. You have a certain passion. You want to create something, or at least you have a desire to do something. There's passion, there's culture. It can not just be electronics, right? It could be baking, it can build up this idea. And see a bunch of things that I thought, it could be baking, it could be metalworks, it could be arts, crafts. So don't ever confuse the maker movement to only building electronic stuff. So if you like woodworks, you go build, have a small shop, go good senior exec at Intel. He makes wooden pens, and over the weekend, that's his relaxation. And then build custom nails. So it's not just when people say maker, it doesn't necessarily have to be computers. It can be anything that you can make with your hands. And so let me ask, right? So these are the things I could think of when I think of a maker community, people who build stuff. Right? What are some things that you can think of that is not computer? I think Gautam has spoken, I have spoken, we've got some 15 terms. What comes to your mind that is not represented here? Why do you think you're here? Take a shot at it, there's no wrong answer. I saw a half hand go up. No? Okay, still. Let's try to do something different. Do something different. Learn. Share. Innovation. Eco-friendly. Maybe things that are out there aren't that friendly, right? Eco-friendly. And so maybe you have an idea that says, here's what I do.
It's like computers.
Okay. Cost effective. Yeah. This is a good example. Right? It used to cost $2,500. You can do it for $200. Just imagine the potential of life folks. Creativity. Yeah. I mean, it's good to study, get good grades in exams. That gives you happiness. What also gives you happiness when you build something out of your own. It's the smallest thing. And the first thing that I ever did that gave me the greatest piece of joy is I used to have a small mini truck when you were like 5 years old. You tie a thread to it and you walk around and they're inseparable. Right? Wherever you go to the bathroom, you'll be pulling them. And then one day it just broke. And because I used to load I put a brick in it thinking I was going to be having a truck with things on the back and it just broke that end. So then, I saw someone came on the street taking a shoebox, a Bata shoebox, dragging it. So I said, wait a second. So I took a matchbox, took out the two wheels, two axles and the two wheels from the truck, put it into the matchbox and then start that. Things like that. I mean, you do, and it's, that won't just, it won't go more than 10 feet, right, and will fall apart. But the first time you put something together, I'm sure you would have done something like that, right? And you feel that joy comes from something creating. Because you didn't read a manual, you didn't go to the web, look at it, it comes together. That piece of joy is something that personalized touch. Because then it becomes your own creation. So there's fun stuff to be done, and for all the good reasons that you pointed out, there's a lot of goodness out of this. And before it used to be a pain in the neck, right? Servo motors, computer board. I mean, not that it didn't exist, right? It's been there for 30, 40 years. Right? What's changed in the last few years, what's changed in the last 23 years is they're very cost-effective solutions. This example that was here, this is the Arduino board, and it's a. This is practically got. This is. It may not be this, but there's another one. This is probably the equivalent of everything sitting in this box. This entire box is into this. So hopefully this is less expensive, right? It can't be as expensive as that. I won't have the entire same power performance as that, but this has pretty much all the capabilities, and this will come for about close to 3,000 rupees, 4,500. I don't know what you think. Okay. So this should come for about 50,000. So what 3,000? And that one will cost how much roughly? A desktop computer? Yeah, 10x, right? If this is 3,000 and if this is even, let's just say it's 30,000, that's 10x, 10 times. So you can do a lot of fun stuff with people. So let's go to the next slide. Okay. Unfortunately, these logos come with the names in, so I can't ask you. What is this? Arduino. Good example is this. This is an Arduino board. And then you have, what is this? Raspberry Pi. Okay. And there's something called Intel Galileo. I wish I had the board, but I'll make sure I get it next time. There is something called Intel, and I'll cover these two. These are not free advertisements for Intel. It's just that that's the thing that I know. Right? And there are plenty of other non-Intel products like Arduino And this comes in several different flavors. And you can run pretty much a whole range of software. You can run Linux, Yocto, probably not Windows, but this one runs Windows. It's a little bit more. So there's plenty of solutions, right? And they're all in that 2,000 to 3,000 rupee range. And that's pretty much, it's called the SBC, or the single board computer. It has everything that you want. Okay, so let's go to the next one. In this one, I'm just showing you the next level of detail of the Intel Galileo. This is a single board that has a CPU. What is a CPU? It's got RAM. What is RAM? DDR. Anybody know what DDR is? It's a type of RAM. Double data rate RAM. But it's now pretty much, everybody says, give me a DDR RAM.
What would happen if you increase the RAM of 256 MB to something like that?
512 MB, very good. So the question here is, what happens if this is 256 MB DRAM? What happens if you put 500? What happens? Let me ask you. Okay, I mean, you just increase the capacity. What happens when you increase the capacity? You can put bigger programs. You can load faster programs. Or the performance. See, typically, if you run an operating system on top of this, even with 256, the pages get swapped out to the disk. If it's only 256, that much code can go in, and if the access is to a section outside of that, then it has to get that page from the memory, and that takes time. Because the storage device is 10x, 100x slower than the system memory. But if you increase it to 512, that data that you're looking for is there, and for instance, you won't wait for the page to refresh. You go to a very old computer and try to load up some fancy PowerPoint, you will see that lag, right? You hit a return, you will just wait for 2 seconds. So what I have PC that's almost 15 years old. I never throw it in. All I keep doing is upgrading the RAM, right? Because all it does is enables, even though your CPU may be old and slow, if you increase, you can max it out. So if you short answer to your question, maybe you can increase the performance of your application. You increase the memory size. Okay, so it's got memory, CPU, it's got a power supply, it's got a full Ethernet port. And these are all, all the things that are on the periphery of this. They are all IOs. You want to light something, you want to send a signal, you want to turn on a servo motor. All of those things are built in. In the past, you would have had to buy another board that you would have had to connect. So this is just one board. It's got everything, and so does this thing. This is not an Intel, but this has a lot of controllers and activities and GPIs, or general purpose IOs, that you can see in this one. All of this is used to drive out the standard. So, if you go to the next one, this is an Edison. This is about the size of this. It is practically about 20% of the size of the Galileo, but much more faster and cheaper. So this one, there's a lot of words here. Just don't worry about it. It's faster. It's got a dual core CPU. It's got a single core microcontroller. It's got built-in Wi-Fi. It's got built-in Bluetooth. So when you build prototypes, you don't have to worry about any of it. It's all in this little chunk. It's actually about this size. It comes with everything. It comes with software that you can download. It comes with instructions. And if you have questions, you can even post those questions and the Intel guys will respond to them. Right? So if you're building something and you have questions, you got to start. You can ask questions. So it's more of a community rather than just selling a piece of hardware. Right? So that's, and there are many like this. And like I said, Raspberry, Arduino, Galileo, and then Edison. And this is roughly about, again, 3,000 rupees. And then you need a bunch of other things. For example, a couple of wires, some LEDs, batteries in your set. Okay? Alright. So here are some thoughts, right? I think at the end of the day, you are either going to make this successful or not. and it's all about a community. It's not about anybody asking you to do it. It's because the seniors are there, these kits are available at the time, and it's a great school. They give you the opportunity, the encouragement, and a place like this to meet. So it's for you to. I thought about a couple of things. What are some of the things that I'd like to leave you with? There are about 4 or 5, not a whole lot. The first is the passion part. If you don't have passion, not much is going to happen. You don't need the money, you don't need the books, you don't need the resources. That you'll find. But the key thing is, you need that passion. And not everybody's passion will be to go build an Arduino board or a LED. It could be different. It could be wood. It could be metal. It could be something else. Go find one. Collect a number of people who have similar passions. That's the community. Tap into the world wide. All of the things that you ever want to know and more is on the world. You don't need, I was growing up, I had to go to the city central library or go to British Council, and the membership is restricted, all that. Today I'm just going on and anything else, you have way too many resources on there. Seek partnerships. Build a community, right? Form partners within the school. This is a great community. Right? You have folks 7, 8, 9, 11, 12. Find somebody who can help you with what is it you're looking for. Tie with companies. Ask companies. Like for instance, your seniors can actually go talk to Google, Intel, TI, Freescale, other companies to say, hey, we have a community. Can you donate some of these boards? They'd be happy to do it. They'd love to give you the stuff, and they'll give you the documentation, the literature. So that's another one. The schools. Why stop at the school? Once you get going, I'm not suggesting that you do it today, but once you've got a certain method to the madness and we have certain things going, invite a neighboring school, have a competition, have an open day, right? And you guys already do this on the IT Day, IT Fest. There are other things that you invite other people. Encourage them to start their own community. So it's not just within the walls of Kumaran, but we also try and take this outside. And then finally institutions. Right? NASCOM, which is the National Software Body, has a thing for product development. So once you have enough to show, you can say, hey, we want to tie up with you guys. We're building something, we'll build some products. What can you do? So I can help out with some of these kind of things. Right? And then lastly, this is something that has become very important from very early on. It's called fail quick and fail early. I start towards, don't look for perfection in the beginning. When you're building a prototype, it's okay to fail. The earlier you fail, the better it is, because you know that a certain solution will not work. And you have to make a good note of why it doesn't work. Edison only experimented with how many materials before you hit a pulse? 1,000. That's 1,000 materials, right? And the guy started with even a wood piece. A guy as great as Edison, because who knows? So the plan to fail, it's okay. Failure is a stepping stone to success, right? Most of us are discouraged. And I did something and well, I didn't have the right material. I'm stupid. I didn't have the right instrument. It's okay. But as long as you learn from it. And then lastly, it doesn't show here what I said was the key thing to all of this is getting started. It's not here, but what I had here was the key thing is to get started, and this is a great thing. You're off to a good start. You've started some projects that your seniors have shown. Go build them. Build them. What do the other videos say? Build one project every 1 week. Please talk about the ideas. Put it together. Exchange notes. You may not be practically build one idea. Ideal, one idea. One idea per. So the key thing is get started. Don't get bogged down by a lot of this stuff, because there's way too much information. Too many things going on, right? So just get started. Move on to the next. This is just the last foil. Lots of resources, right? And it doesn't show the biggest resources the World Wide Web, but I listed some of these things. These are kind of intelligent stuff. There's Intel and MIT labs. Now all of these are links, and I leave the PowerPoint. So you can just click on it and you can go, you can explore. There is one in the Data and White House on the Education Initiative. You can just, the simplest thing is maker.intel.com or just Google Maker, M-A-K-E-R, and you'll find gobs and gobs of information. And lastly, Google is your best friend. Just Maker, and you get a ton of hits. Everything from schematics to board diagrams, the bill of material or what's called a BOM. If you're building let's say a water controller for your home, where you get started. So you just look for water controller BOM or a bill of material. You'll find a schematic, you'll say how to tag that, what to do. In fact, the free code is available. So everything is on the web, right? It's just getting started. And that's it. I'll open it up for any questions, thoughts, comments. What kind of restrictions are we talking about? Is it monetary? Is it time? Is it space?
I mean, yeah, we don't have enough time being vertical. So then we need to spend equal amount of time on the community as well as doing our projects and our academic. So how do you think we can?
Yeah, good question, right? So you only have a certain amount of hours. You have your homework, projects, exams, and then you come to school. You spend a good 8 to 10 hours here. Where do I find? So it's about priorities, right? If you really want to spend 45 minutes in a day thinking about this, going on Google, or during lunch hour, spending 30 minutes. So this community, maybe groups of 6 or 7, or in your own class, you have lunch together and discuss over lunch, right? It's perfectly, it's free time. You've got control over that 45 minutes or 30 minutes or an hour. Weekends are a great thing. If you have a friend nearby, you can meet up on a Saturday for about an hour, right? I'm not suggesting that you spend the entire day. Your dad and mom will come after me and they'll say, you told my kid to spend the entire weekend. That's not it, right? 2 hours on the phone. So time management is always, you have to juggle with it. But if you really want to do it, there are lots of creative ways of scheduling around existing during a lunch, on a weekend. 1 hour a week shouldn't be that difficult to get together and exchange ideas. There's another question somewhere.
8th and 9th grade, few competitions like Infuse and Google Search. Still there. But I can participate in them, see the entries. But then what I realized was I was short on knowledge. I had ideas are fine. But the first step was done. But what about the knowledge? Like, for these projects, where do you get the knowledge if you're still in 9th grade? It's kind of hard, right?
Yeah, I think it requires a bit of the structured knowledge, the one that you learn at school. If somebody says that, put a 3K ohm resistor, right? You have to know what a resistor is. So look for ways to build, grab from the structured world, which is the school part of it. And then there is the unstructured world. There is a lot of DIY, do-it-yourself, websites that will handhold you, tell you the very basics, give you a list, give you a procedure, tell you how to do. They put a YouTube on top of that, which actually shows the video. For instance, it might say you have to solder these two. I don't know how to solder anything. Look for a soldering thing and or then get creative. I don't want to solder. I don't want to touch heat. You can buy a breadboard. Cost 50 rupees, 25 rupees, so you can connect. So I think there is no one stock answer. What you have to do is fall back on some of the structured knowledge that you gather, or you maybe come to your physics teacher and say, I have these instructions, not able to follow. Or reach out to folks like Gautam, and Gautam can reach out to people like me or others who are in the industry. I can come on a Saturday, I can spend an hour or two answering any questions. I'd be happy to do it. An hour a month is something I can easily come and spend. We can sit around and chat. I can point you, and if I don't know, I can always go and get those answers. So he needs to be able to ask the question, saying, hey, I need some help. The thing that we are all very averse to is, somehow we all think, for me to be very successful and for me to be labeled as successful, I have to know all the answers. That's the first thing that you along with the journey, you have to learn to say, I don't know. And the second thing you have to be able to say is, I need some help. So when you do that, instantly doors open. Your teacher, your physics teacher, your somebody, your senior, somebody like me, I can show up here on a Saturday, we can chat. So there are lots of possibilities. Any other questions? Was it useful? Yep. Okay. So with that, I'm done.
This is regarding IoT, Internet of Things. The concept is that everything around you is connected together. So my question is that, see, if someone hacks into one of these devices, then what happens to the rest of the devices? Won't they get hacked?
Very good. So one of the issues with IoT, the Edison, by the way, is built for, you saw the last slide, it's built for connected smart devices. So the question here was, if all these devices talk to each other, and they're all connected to each other, and then they're connected to a cloud or a gateway, and then they're connected, what happens? So security is one of the biggest issues when it comes to IoT. If you hack into one device, possibly you can hack into the rest. Next thing you know, your fridge will be running at 100 degrees centigrade, assuming it's a connected device. Your alarms can go off, lots of weird things can happen. So we're building, the industry, the consortia is building lots of security layers. So one is to make sure that you cannot penetrate the device. The second is if you penetrate the device, you can't go beyond that device. So there are security standards that are being built as part of the Open Cloud Platform, OCP, which tries to limit the liability of these threats to devices, but there is always a risk. Right? But what you're trying to do today, you connect to the internet and you can get infected. But you an antivirus thing, you do your best, you don't go to the weird websites. Probably your school has a gateway filter. So those are and still evolve. I don't think we have a perfect solution.
So I would like to know about how they develop acting hackers scandals. Do they hire professional hackers to hack into their systems to find the problem?
They do both. They have in-house people. For instance, McAfee is now part of it. That's what McAfee. So there are people who so they separate these guys out. They give them all the tools, access, and they say just go break this. So they're within McAfee or any other Symantec. Then you also have hackathons. You just say this motion is there's a set of bunch of machines, and then they'll say hack.
So you get an idea of their flaws and you work on.
You want to discover the vulnerabilities by design, not by accident. You saw the recent thing with Sony. The hack that happened about 2 months ago, 42 million records got stolen, money was taken out. So it's better for us to find the defect in the system. So you do that through both in-house validation and also sometimes you pick specific guide and you say, here is the system I've set up. Go at it.
Like, suppose your project that you made it and you're fine with it, it's proper, it's working, and the people around you know what it is and how it works. But then if you want to make it go worldwide, how do you set it up?
Worldwide members your friend?
No, but then not just that. A certain specific organization. Okay. Suppose you want to patent it, and not many people, they like for children like us. How do we do that?
So there are companies that specialize in filing intellectual property rights, IPR, as it's called, patents. Okay. There are companies that do it. If you ask folks around and say, hey, I have an idea, is it even patentable? And you can go talk to these firms. I can put you in touch with a couple of firms that will do any good. If you start with any large company, they will have an IP council. And they may not file it for you, but I don't think I can go ask Intel, but they'll point me. You go talk to the guy and it's good. are young, if you're in a school, they're happy to do that for you. At least they tell you, hey, this is happening to the life, you should pursue it. It takes about 25,000 rupees or something to get it done. So, but they'll advise you, saying, it's doable, it's worth the 25,000 to protect what you've come up with. So people need to do it. And if you need help, just let me know, I can connect you with it. Okay, I might be running over time, I don't know. I see your hand raised.
We have like it's 2 by 6, 5 to 2 and then 1 0 to 4. So what do we have in that form? Why is all this doubling?
Okay. Somebody here who's in the level should be able to answer that question. Can you repeat the question for that?
For that and all that, why does it start at 2, 5, 6 and then go up to 5 to 2 and 1 0 to 4? Why does it increase to 4?
Okay. So I'd like to explain what a byte is now, because we have to go to the basics when you're doing this.
No, I would say it's even more basic than that. Why do the numbers go in why do the numbers go in 32, 64?
Exactly. Yeah, that's the answer. Yeah. So bytes are made of bits. Bits are what store information. So when you say a bit, it's either a 0 or a 1. It's either true or false. And a set of 8 bits make it 1 byte. And then a kilobyte, megabyte, gigabyte. So you have all these annotations before the byte word. So what happens is when you have 1 byte, 8 bits, that is I think 8 memory addresses, 8 bytes. And when you increase that, you have to go in 1 byte, 2 byte, so stuff like that. So it's multiples of 2 power x, because when you have 1 byte,
there are 8 addresses, 8 bits, and each of these bits can take 2 states, 0 or 1. So when you have 8 bits, the possible number of addresses you can store.
Okay.
Yeah, that should be.
Yeah. Everything you're saying is correct. I think we go down. Yeah, I can. Okay. Do a mini project as to how the chips build and working now. I can point you to some resources. Okay, last 2 questions.
You said that it happens in thousands of people. Yeah, but if you had seen the older iPod which used to come at iPod Classic, the really cheap ones, they had come in 80 GB and 160 GB. So how do you explain that?
They are marketed as 80 GB. They're probably close to, give me some power of 2. And what happens with the 80 GB is what you end up getting. The remaining 16 GB or, even if it's more spaces you get. The rest will be taken up by operating systems or miscellaneous. So, because there's simply no way to address anything that is not a power of 2. So, 80 GB, 160 GB and things like that are what you get to use. The remaining is taken up by, I/O. Last one. You're all tired and sweaty. Need to go take that break, keep that little potato chips, right? So, alright, thank you for hearing me out. If there are other questions, do let me know, and don't forget to get in touch with you. Have a good thing, and all the very best for the cake and the probably 2 years from now. I want to see some of the 7th graders come in and come with some ideas, share it, and I'll keep track of it through the Google Plus. Thank you, guys.
It was very fascinating and very informative. Now, Gautam needs to make some announcements, so I'll hand over the mic to him.
Okay, I'd like to show you guys a few things that we've been working on and some things that you can contribute to also. So, the first thing I want to show is the khmd community's Android app. Can you just set it up? Just a second. So this app is material design, so it's following the current standards. You can see the material design on the top left corner. You can see the animations which are material design. Then this app is definitely incomplete, and what we are doing right now is just showing the articles from the blog. Okay, let's see if it loads up. I think the Wi-Fi is acting bad, but I have some more things to show. So if you guys would like to contribute to this, we have we already developed Android apps, then you can come here and help us with this. And if you guys would like to learn Android development, then this is the best resource to get started. The Android developer website itself. And maybe over the summer some of you can learn and start contributing to us. This app will be completed in a few weeks and we will listen to everyone. Then one more thing I wanted to talk about was the 11th and 12th grade final projects I mentioned about. So what we're doing is from this summer onwards we'll be archiving all the best projects that have happened in 11th and 12th and putting them up on GitHub. So you guys can have a look at them, test them, and even contribute to them if you want to do more. Yeah. Just Google GitHub, Gautam and khmd reader. That's all. Then the last thing I wanted to speak about was the IT fair. That's the only technical event we're supposed to have in a year. So I think the last 2 years hasn't been that great, but yeah, definitely before that, all our IT fairs have been super hit. Yeah, I think for the next year, I want to make it this academic year in 2015-2016. I want to make it the best IT fair ever, and for that, I need active participation from all of you, including 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th, everyone. So if you guys would like to hold your own events and shows and want to talk about something, please let me know. We'll definitely give you support and we can build things together. Thank you.
The event is at its end, but no event is complete without a word of thanks. We would like to thank Mr. Sathya Prasad for being with us here today and inspiring us and guiding us with your ideas. Thank you, sir. We'd like to thank Deepa ma'am, Bhavani ma'am, Pushkala ma'am, Uma ma'am, Chetna ma'am, Jayanti ma'am, Kavita ma'am, Smita ma'am, and Kanchna ma'am, and the support staff for helping us make this happen. Special thanks to Arjun Rao, Stage Pradhansavam, Gautam, Aniruddha, Mysore, and Sathya for all their external support. We'd also like to thank Abharan Hemant, Arnish Shanoy, Elizabeth Babaraj, Anurag Muthu, and Tushar Naidu for working with the Oculus Thrift. Samir Kolar, Supriya Prasad, and Nevat for all their advisory and voluntary support. And finally to all of you present here for being such a spectacular audience. With this, the first event of KHMD comes to an end. We hope you all had a blast today. I certainly loved it.